All right, today we're going to be exploring the question, are men really falling behind and earning less money than ever? And is it true that females are now increasing their economic power and potential and men are getting left behind? So the cold truth from the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the U.S. is real male wages peaked in 1979. This is what a lot of the statistics I'm going to talk about revolve around that year, where male wages were 60.5K, and now, in as of 2024 data, it is 60K adjusted for inflation. So that's about a 1% decrease in purchasing power, and that shows that men have not experienced a real median wage increase in over 45 years. So with less buying power, you have less economic opportunity, mobility, and you're a bit stuck and stagnant. So this is a net decline while productivity and the cost of living has increased. It's not just increased, it has skyrocketed. Since 1979, we've seen 330% inflation. I believe that's specifically talking about cost of living, so housing, transportation, food, all of these things. So in 79, we saw the median home price was 55.7K. In 2024, it is 417,000. And that is a 650% increase in those 45 years. And you can see that wages have not gone up by 650%. They've gone down, adjusted for inflation, about 1%. So this is a very worrying statistic. We have men earning the same amount of money with everything else, cost of living, and everything really just exploding over the years. And so what we've seen is a decline of working men. We have seen high-paying blue-collar jobs, either outsourced or automated, right, with AI, with H-1B visas, with the internet now globalizing a lot of the economy. And so a lot of manufacturing jobs have just evaporated. Okay, under Trump now, he's trying to bring those back and incentivize for domestic production, but that's a long process. So in 79, there were 19.5 million blue-collar factory jobs. Today, that's almost 50% less, 11.9 million. So with blue-collar jobs, you didn't need a degree, right? You could go in immediately through an apprenticeship or a trade, and now there's just fewer opportunities there. So it forces you to pursue other options, okay? And so the biggest other option that people have, blue-collar, right, versus white-collar, how you would make that jump in a lot of cases is a degree, right? A 4-year degree from a college. In 1979, that cost $3,000 for a 4-year college education with a bachelor's degree. In 2024, it is on average $43,000. So that's almost a 15 times increase. I believe it's actually 13.5, but we can see the cost of education has gone up almost 15 times. Wages have not. Again, cost of living up massive, over 300%. Wages have not really increased, adjusted for inflation. So the education gap, this is another worrying concern, right? With college enrollments, who's graduating, and what that means for the economy. So 40% of college students are men. On the flip side, it's now 60% female. We've seen a drop in male college enrollments of about 20% in the last decade or two, I believe. And the statistic around college education is that if you have a degree, if you have a 4-year accredited college degree, you have a 75% increase in your lifetime earnings compared to someone who only graduated high school. So this shows that men are falling behind in education. Women are taking the lead. And this has serious economic implications for men because we can see the statistic is you'll make almost twice as much money if you have a 4-year degree on average, right? There are always outliers. There are always people who start businesses and things like that. But that shows that men are not looking so good in the education space. Also, the cost of living crisis. We've all lived through this already since COVID, right? Since 2020, and seen in real time going to the store or things you buy, you see the price, how much it's skyrocketed and gone up for a lot of things. So the average rent is now $2,050 nationwide. There's always places that are more expensive, like New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and then there are cheaper places like the middle of nowhere in the Midwest. No offense if you're from there, right? But rent is very expensive, okay? Usually you need to show that you make about 3 times the cost of rent. So for a $2,000 apartment, you need to be making $6K a month, which is about $72K a year. And that is above the median income for men. So even renting an apartment seems kind of unrealistic and out of touch. So inflation has caused basically all necessities to go up. We have food, transportation, rent, education, etc. Everything costs more money. You're not getting better quality. In a lot of cases, you're getting worse quality, and you're paying more for it. Isn't that lovely? And so men are left with less buying power than their fathers for the first time ever in U.S. history. That might not actually be true for the Great Depression, but what I have read, the statistics around this are that men are no longer outpacing what their fathers were earning, right? Every generation has kind of climbed up. Like, you made more money, you bought a bigger house, you got nicer, newer, more cars, people had larger families. Now we're seeing the opposite, right? We're seeing men struggle to even find a job, right? Home ownership, if you're under 35, seems like a pipe dream. Might not even be able to afford a car. Like, a lot of these things, we're not doing better than our fathers, right? And that's a reverse trend. So that is extremely worrying. Something a lot of people don't talk about. And so men are really just kind of opting out in a lot of cases of society. I'm sure you've seen that in the media and online about men kind of being lethargic or apathetic, just not caring and being like, well, the system, the game is rigged against me, so I'm going to go do my own thing or live in my parents' basement, right? So apparently 7 million men age 25 to 54 are not working or even looking for work. So 7 million men, this is the prime working age, 25 to 54. They're not applying for jobs, they're not looking for work, and they have no intention of doing this. So the question is, what are they doing? How are they surviving, right? If you're not working or looking for work, what's going on? On top of this, mental health crises have become, a very worrying thing. And really there's zero support and zero sympathy for men. No one cares about you until you're successful, unfortunately. And when you need help the most, right? With figuring out what to do for your career, finding a group of friends, right? Establishing yourself. You don't really have anyone to look up to, unless you have, a father figure, your father in your life you can look up to, a role model, right? A mentor. Most people don't have these things. Most men don't have these things. For women, they tend to get a lot more support and sympathy. For men, we're just expected to figure it out. Okay, so living at home. This is an insane statistic that 52% of men ages 18 to 29, so under 30, in 2024 are living at home. Okay, over half, 52%. In 1979, that was 15% of men ages 18 to 29 were living at home. So we've seen a 3.5 times, so 350% increase in the amount of young men who are stuck living at home because they cannot find jobs, they cannot afford rent, and they have no economic mobility or opportunity. And so that means people are not experiencing life as much, they are stagnating, they are not starting families, and they are not growing. And this has tripled, almost quadrupled. And this is the highest amount of young men living at home since the Great Depression. Okay, so when things were really, really, really bad and everything crashed, that's normal now for today for the amount of men living at home. So with this, we've seen a female surge in college education, in earning increases, in financial mobility and home ownership, right? And so women now dominate in education. You see 40% of college students are men. That means 60% are female. I believe females graduate at a 10% higher rate than men. So more men drop out of college, fewer men go to college. And women are taking their education seriously, meaning their lifetime earnings is increased by 75% compared to those just with a high school diploma. And so corporate is female dominated. I work in corporate America, in the heart of corporate America in DC, at a large organization. And a lot of the top executives and department leads are female. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that females are dominating in corporate America. Men are not as likely to get hired. If you put out 1,000 job applications on LinkedIn, you're 2 times more likely to get hired if you're female compared to male. So discrimination against men, especially in corporate America. Females have earned an increase in wages massively. So in 1979 it was $24.5K per year. In 2024 it was $51,000 per year for ladies, and that means is about 106% increase in income. Remember, men in 1979 were earning $60.5K. That is now down to $60K, adjusted for inflation. That is a negative 1%. It's a decrease, right? Women have increased their earnings by 106%. Men have decreased their net median income, adjusted for inflation, since the peak of male income in 1979. So that means women are not only outpacing men, they still don't earn as much, right? 51K is still not at 60K, but this is 106% increase versus a negative 1% increase with college enrollment increased for females. I'd project in the next 10 or so years, it's going to be flipped. Women will be earning more, be more educated, have more economic mobility, buying power, home ownership. Women are already buying homes at an earlier age than men. The average age for a male first-time home buyer is 33. The average age for a female first-time home buyer is 31. So women are already outpacing men in earnings. Okay. Now, this is a lot of doom and gloom. Okay, this is the statistics. It's the harsh truth. It's reality. But there is also always a lot of opportunity. Okay, so the game plan for men. What do you do if you're not as likely to get hired? Your income is stagnant, is decreasing. You are not able to afford homes. Your cost of living is insane. You're stuck living at home. More than likely, at the flip of a coin, you're more likely to be living at home if you're 18 to 29 than not. First time ever since the Depression. What do you do, right? Well, it boils down to, first and foremost, learning a high income skill. Okay, so without going to college, men are the unemployment rate for men with a college degree versus no college degree is the same. It's now gone like this, to where if you have a college degree, if you don't, it doesn't matter. It doesn't help you. Okay, it's not always true. Maybe in corporate, it's more necessary, and in other scenarios. But college is not really helping men. That's what this statistic loosely says. This is what I am seeing, and this is what the unemployment rates show for college education for men, whether they have or do not have a 4-year degree. So learning a high-income skill is now a top priority. It always has been, but maybe it hasn't been at the top of your radar. So you have YouTube, you have AI, ChatGPT, right? You have books, you have a lot of things to where you could learn a high-income skill, like coding. You can learn sales, you can learn marketing, you can learn how to start your own business, how to generate income online, e-commerce. A lot of opportunity with everything becoming digitized, and men tend to do well in these aspects, where we're already in a lot of cases addicted to playing video games, right? And you can just translate that and kind of flip that to treating an online business or source of income as a video game, right? And so building businesses is going to be pretty much the key, right? Blue collar work, I don't have any statistics around this. We know that blue collar work has shrunk in manufacturing, but the trades are now a very important thing in terms of, maybe you can't afford a degree. It is extremely expensive, on average $43,000 for a 4-year degree. But with a lot of the tradesmen aging out and dying off, there will be a massive shortage, and therefore supply and demand says that if there are fewer supply of blue-collar workers, right, plumbers, electricians, truckers, right, then the demand increases, and so does the pay. Okay, so earning income online is another explosion with the internet, right? Since the internet started in, I think, 1996, something like that. We now have so much at our fingertips. You can start a YouTube channel. You can start an e-commerce business. You can start affiliate marketing. There's a million ways to monetize your skills, and pretty much everyone nowadays has a side hustle, right? You have your full-time job, you have your part-time job, you have your side hustle, you have this, you have that, right? That was cool before COVID, because I'm hustling. Now it's kind of a necessity, like just to survive and pay the rent. You kind of need to be generating economic activity at all times. Okay. So on top of the high-income skills, skipping college, building businesses, maybe thinking about blue-collar work, another thing that is so huge with mental health, the mental health crisis, with everyone on their phones and depressed and not doing well, is we used to have tribalism, right? We used to have your group of people, your village, you knew everybody in it, you would see them every day. Now with everyone living in their own little bubble, in their own little world, on their phone, we don't really have that in-person connection like we used to have. So joining a brotherhood, for example, I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a brown belt. I've been training for 7 years. I know 100 people at my school, 100 people all around the surrounding schools. I can walk into any school in the world, and now almost a black belt, and immediately have a connection and camaraderie with someone. You need something like that. If you don't, you will fall prey to the statistics where essentially 1 in 3 men have 0 close friends. That's really bad for your mental health. Okay, on top of that, sports is also a good thing. Clubs, right? Chess club, it could be anything really, where you get together with the same people that you like every week to have a feeling of belonging, a feeling of community. A lot of people do not have that. So that is the path of success now. It's more off-road.